All right, this is 3.1, word problem number 72. I had created video for 71 and 72, and the app froze up on me in the middle of 72, so I'm going to try to do this separately, and I will get out there what I can, but I've already spent an hour waiting for something that froze up, so I'm going to try to do this, but if it, anyway, hopefully you'll get one of the two eventually posted. Okay, they give us an equation, which is great. When I see this, I'm like, hallelujah, I don't have to write it myself, okay? And if you read the problem, it says in early 2006, a new Jeep Wrangler Sport Edition had a manufacturer's suggested retail price of $23,970. Notice that's your original amount, and it's right here in the equation they gave you. You could have written this yourself, and you would have put the starting amount out front. After t years, the value is given by this equation. So t is our years, and the value is v in this equation. Okay, and if you look at this 3/4, that means that it's depreciating a fourth. It's as a year passes, it's only worth 3/4 of what it was the year before. So I can tell you right now, it's going down by a fourth in its value every year, which means it's depreciating by 25%. And this is actually real information from the Chrysler Corporation. If you look in your book, it actually says that. Now, if I want to graph this, in order to put it in the calculator, I'm going to have to use x's and y's. So I'll call y my value, and I'll call x my time in years. So I can just type this in really easily. Remember, you're going to put your 3/4 in parentheses and use a little that little up arrow for exponents and put an x in there. Now I've got this in my calculator already. Now, one of the things I'll just kind of tell you is that when I went to do this, I had the window from 71 in my calculator, and when I first went to graph it, I couldn't even see it, and you may kind of still see some of that on the video that posts for 71 if it ever posts. I don't know if it's going to or not. So if I want to set my window, here's what I found out that worked. My x's represent the number of years. I'm not going to have negative years, so I can let my x-min be 0. Let's say that I'm going to go up. I don't know when this thing is going to be worth nothing, so I'm going to say 100 years is what I'm going to look at because I don't know how many years it's going to take. And let me count by tens here just because, I'll get through the graph a little easier. Now, the lowest value it's ever going to have is 0. So my y-min can be 0. It's not going to be worth negative something. Probably you could always sell it for scrap metal and get something out of it. So it's probably not ever going to be worth totally nothing. But, we still say it's not worth anything anymore. It's probably scrap metal. And I know that the highest value it's going to have is what it starts out with, which is $23,970. Let's just make that $24,000 so we have some, space to see that value in the calculator. And since I'm counting by, I got to go up to such a big number, I'm just going to count by 1500s. I just arbitrarily chose that, but I know it needs to be at least by thousands or something. And I don't ever change the x-res in the calculator. So now when I type this in, I got it in, and one of the things 72 asks us to do after we look at it in the calculator, and if you look at it, it looks something like this. I'll just kind of sketch what I'm seeing. It's really close here. And it goes down pretty quickly, and it looks like it kind of gets down to 0 in no time at all. So let's look at it this way. Let's go. The A part was just put it in the calculator, look at it, so we could say A is just figuring out that you need to write it that way to get it in the calculator, and you're looking at the graph of it if you've typed it in your calculator. Again, do that. Don't just follow the video so that you're actually seeing the numbers that I'm getting. They want us to create a table of values that shows the value V for t equal 1. Remember, our t's are our x's. Okay? And go from 1 to 10. So let me do that. I'm going to go put that in here. This is where my video froze up the first time I tried to make it. Okay? If I look in my calculator, I'm going to write these values down. I'm going to turn off the video just so that I won't be wasting time writing things. Okay, so what I've done is got my values out of the calculator. I got a little bit off because I started at year 0, and 0 is what it's worth when it rolls off the parking lot, okay? We can see, if we're looking at that, at 10 years, it's only worth $1,349.80. It went down in value fast, didn't it? So we're just kind of noticing how fast it goes down. When will the Jeep have no value? Okay, here's what we're going to do. Go in your calculator and go to the y equal, and you should already have the thing in there, right? So let's do, at no value, wouldn't your y be 0? So one thing you can do, let me go to another slide. Calculator, on the first line I have my equation. 23970 3/4 to the x power. And that's how I've typed it in. I'll just write it that way. Now if I want to know what it is when y equals 0, I can put y equals 0, or I could do this. Isn't that the x-intercept? Okay, so let's do this. Instead of using 2 lines, I'm going to put this in. I'm going to do second trace, which gets me to the calc function. I want the 0, so I'm going to choose 2. And then I'm going to hit enter, enter, enter. Okay, so enter, enter, enter. And I get an error. That does not surprise me one bit. Why do I get an error? Well, the reason I get an error is this thing's coming down, and this is an asymptote. It never really gets to 0. So what I'm going to have to do, this didn't work, did it? There is no x-intercept. There's no point where it's equal to 0. So here's what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to go ahead and go to the table. So I'm going to hit second graph and go back to the table. And let's just keep scrolling down and see how long it takes before it gets down to nothing. I'm not ever going to hit 0. It's just going to be worth pennies. I'm going to keep going for a while. I'm going to go till when I round it would actually be 0. And here's what I see. Here's something here's what I'm looking at my table right now, and you can scroll on down. At 53, after 53 years, I have a value of 0.00573. If I rounded that, that would be 0.01, right? But in 54 years, I have 0.0043. That 4 no longer rounds that up to 0. So this is approximately 0. This was approximately a penny. It's actually worth 0 pennies in year 54. And it's kind of interesting, you know, just go to your Y column and scroll down till you see this happen, and you think about it. It's actually worth a penny until the year 54. And so what is the year 54? Well, we started, 2006 was our year 0, right? Let's see. That's our year 0. If I add 54 to that, that would be the year 2060 that it's worth nothing. Worth not even a cent. Not a penny. So that's kind of it's kind of funny that they asked the question that way. It actually made you think about, why am I getting an error in the calculator?